make a lot of decisions based on this, is I call it my rocking chair theory. I think about myself when I'm 95 years old in front of the little fire with my blanket. I have this visual in my brain. And I started my business on this, believe it or not. And I think about that version of me. And my biggest like success in life would be getting to that version and be like, you went for it, girl. You didn't let doubt, fear, hesitation, questioning get in the way. My biggest fear, which sometimes also is a motivator for me, I'm not going to lie, is me getting to that version and thinking, what if? What if you would have pressed that send button? What if you would have gone for Mission 48? What if you would have X, Y, and Z, insert whatever, you know? And so for me, when I'm in that crossroads decision, I'm like, well, what would she think? And usually 10 times out of 10, it's go for it, to be honest with you.
Do you guys know how difficult it is to find a high quality supplement line that doesn't just destroy your gut? Most pre-workouts and post-workouts, or even like on-the-go snack options like beef jerky or protein bars, they're terrible for your gut health. They're full of xanthan gum and guar gums and fillers and artificial sweeteners, which disrupt your gut microbiome and lead to chronic bloating, constipation, diarrhea, and not to mention when our gut is off, all of the other symptoms like hormone imbalances, thyroid issues, mental health issues, which is why I'm just obsessed about gut health. But anywho, I have not been able to find a good supplement line out there, and I had to cut out all of these fitness type supplements when I was really struggling with a lot of my own gut issues. Until recently, I found Paleo Valley. And Paleo Valley is one of the first supplement companies that hands down is incredible for your gut health, whether you're on a gut healing journey or you're someone who just wants to optimize your gut health and overall health. Their founder, Autumn, actually suffered with IBS herself. So she created this entire supplement line specifically to be gut friendly. And I'm not lying with you guys. Their whey protein powder, which is grass-fed and finished, gum-free, artificial sweetener-free, no issues, no bloating, no constipation, no diarrhea, no upset stomach, which is literally like the first time in my entire life that I've not had issues with a protein powder. And they even have super yummy grass-fed and finished beef jerky sticks, which are made with a collagen casing instead of the typical citric acid casing, which is terrible for your gut health. And if you want to try out some of their other products, they even have a bone broth protein powder. I love adding that into whether it's like my oatmeal in the morning or my protein shakes. It literally tastes like the Nestle hot chocolate powders, if you ever had those as a kid, which were not gut friendly. And then they have great supplements too, like their apple cider vinegar capsules or even their turmeric capsules, which are great for inflammation and gut health. So if you want to get a discount, you can use my code using the link in the show notes here, which is paleovalley.com/Rachel Scheer podcast. But all of that's going to be in the show notes. So check out the supplement line because guys, you know me, I would not have this on my podcast if it was not awesome and gut friendly.
You're just a really cool person. I got to get to know you last time when I was on your podcast. You have just like a really cool, grounded, confident energy about you. And when you asked to come on my podcast, I was like, hell yeah, of course.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, it was a no-brainer. I was trying to think of the people where I'm like, okay, what do I value what they do and just everything like that. And as soon as your name popped into my brain, I'm like, I need to reach out to her because it's very similar. You just are very grounded in everything that you're doing and the impact that you want to make. And when I was thinking about Mission 48, I'm like, okay, like she is the person. So I appreciate you on that.
Yeah, I think what we connect a lot about is, one, we're very ambitious women, but we're both really excited about helping other women, right? And helping other women really up level and step into their truest potential and reach their highest self. I know I've been on my personal development journey for quite some time, and I've seen like the byproduct of that in every single area of my life. And it's like you can't just help but like want to be like, hey, you guys need to know more about this. And I want to shake people and just like, come on, like let me help you do this. There's so much that you can do with your life, and you can have everything that you want to have, but you just have to be willing. You just have to be willing to go through some of the uncomfortability and to really step it to the edge and like lean in and lean in. And what I love too about your podcast that you have is the man in the arena, right? That's what it's called.
It's Woman in the Arena, right?
Woman
here.
in the Arena. Okay. So
but the quote is
based off of that.
It is. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And that's something, Rach, like I never thought if you would have asked high school Kelsey if she would be the Kelsey today, she'd be like, you are out of your mind. Like there is no way that this girl is doing what she's doing today. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about like spreading the message that you're spreading too, of like, hey, you're capable of so much more, because I never thought that I could own a business, create Mission48, like do the things that I'm doing today. It's not that I have this special gift that other people don't have. And that's something that's really special in my heart, is it's not these, well, she has it, but I don't, and I thought that so much when I was younger. Well, she just must have the confidence, or she must just have the skill set that she was born with. And it's like, when you realize like everybody has those gifts inside of them. Yes, they're different in some way, but everybody has that capability that you can just tap into. Sky's the limit, and you can create yourself into somebody that you didn't even know it could exist back in the day. So that is heavy on my heart. And that's a belief that I hope to bring to other people of like, well, what are you capable of?
Yeah, I think that's what's so cool about your story, and that I align with so much, is not growing up as being the most confident person. Like for me, I was the little girl who sat at the back of the classroom, who like raised my hand like this, very non-committal, and was actually very, very insecure. So like for me, I had to create that confidence. And part of even my upbringing, I didn't have people who spoke good into me, like who really helped build me up. Like, I've now gotten the blessing to be around so many good parents, where I see these parents who really speak so much good into their kids and bless them and just tell them like, you are brilliant. You are all of these things. And I actually didn't have that. I didn't have somebody who spoke that into me. Yeah. So I grew up being very, very insecure, and I had to actively create my confidence. But I think that's what's so cool about it, is it's something that you create. Like our environment definitely plays a role, right? And the people you surround yourself with and what is spoken into you. And especially as you're a kid, you're so pliable at that age, right? And that can play a huge role. But what's also cool is that's not the only thing. You can actually create your confidence. So I'm curious to hear from you of like some of the things that you've done to really create the woman that you are here today, because I don't use that word just lightly. Like you created her, right? And you said that earlier, is like what I've actually created. You created all of that. So maybe we start there. What are some of the things that you've done that has really helped you cultivate this incredibly badass, confident Kelsey that you are now today?
I love it, Rach. I mean, I say this all the time, like it's built, it's not just given. And like, let's rewind to me back even in college, because I think a lot of women can be there, is, well, we think confidence can come from a body, or confidence can come from this external thing outside of us, right? You see scrolling on social media, you see everybody happy and go lucky. And it's like, and they think that that's what confidence is like, when I finally have that thing, and it's this running goalpost, Rach, that it feels like it's always ahead of us. And it's like, well, why can't I ever get that thing? And for so long, I thought that it was like, well, when I get the body, well, I got the body. Why am I still not as confident as I thought I was? Well, when you get this X amount in your bank account, well, I got that. Why am I still not as confident as I thought I was? And through those time frames for me, and I heard this on a podcast, and as soon as I heard this, Rach, it hit so deeply that self-confidence is truly just self-trust. That is when you say the thing or do the things that you say that you're going to do, that's where self-confidence is truly built. Like at the end of the day, and it can be the tiniest thing of like, you wake up in the morning, Like, hey, I'm going to drink a big glass of water. Do you do it? Or do you say, hey, I'm going to do it, and then you don't do it, right? And I like to think of self-confidence a lot of, I use this analogy, like, let's say you and I, okay, let's say you're in Columbus, Ohio, you road trip up here, and you're like, Kels, I'm going to meet you for dinner at 7 p.m. And I say, all right, great. Like, let's meet for dinner at 7 p.m. And you don't show up week one. Okay. Not that you would do that, but let's say, all right, you don't show up week one. Okay. Well, let's week two, Rach, like, let's meet at 7 p.m. You don't show up. You don't keep your word, right? Week three, let's meet at 7 p.m. You don't show up. Would I be confident in you as a friend actually following through?
No.
Probably not, right? So it's the same thing with you. Like when you say, okay, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to wake up and I'm going to read my 10 pages over and over again, and you do it, that builds that self-confidence. And like you said, it's created, it's just not given. And same thing. Or if you don't do it, that means, man, like that's taking away from that self-confidence. And I think the beauty thing in that for everybody here that's listening is that it's available to every single one of us. Like, what is your one thing that you're building that self-confidence in? And over time, that's going to compound to the badass version of you that you didn't even know was inside of you. You know, I know, so that was a long tangent, but that's deep.
Oh, so good. So good. And, that's one thing I always say is, it's following through on the things that you say you're going to do. And it's proving to yourself with small wins. Very often when we set big goals and ambitions, and there's that little voice in us that's like, yeah, no, you're not, and has that self-doubt. It's because we haven't given our brain, really ourself, evidence, right? We have to give our brain evidence, so when we can prove it to ourselves with the small little incremental wins, it gives the brain evidence of like, okay, I can do this. So now I can do some bigger things. And that it's like a muscle, right? Like you grow it more and more and more. And when it comes to like some bigger things and you follow through on that, which is like fitness, right? I know we're both like super into fitness. I think why that can be such a huge confidence builder. And even like I did bodybuilding. Did you do bodybuilding?
Did.
I thought so. Yeah. Yeah. And
the past life.
I think there's so much about bodybuilding that there's a lot of unhealthy stuff with it. Yeah. But I will say, in fitness, like having a goal and like with bodybuilding and be like, I'm going to get here, and you have to like follow through on it and like to do something and set your mind and follow through and like hit the goal. It does develop this confidence overall in you. And I think for a lot of people, it can start with fitness at the core. I'm not sure if you agree with that, but like fitness is the best way to start building confidence because you have to be able to show up for yourself. Okay, I don't feel like working out. I'm going to go anyway. And I don't want to eat this kind of food. I want to go out and eat, and I know I'm going to measure my food. I'm going to hit my macros. And for me, it was a cool confidence builder because I was able to set a goal. I was able to reach it, but it created confidence. Yes. And somewhat in my body changed, but more so in the fact that I had to develop this discipline too. How do you feel?
Oh, that is exactly it. Like that, I mean, that resonates so deeply with me. I say for me, fitness personally, but also with other women, it's a vehicle to another level version of yourself. Like a lot of times people come in, it's like, oh, I want to look better, feel better. And I think all those goals are incredible. But what they don't realize in the process is who they become. And I see all the time we do all women's strength events. It's empower fitness events that we have. And it's for women, not these big power lifters that have done this for all the time. We've had like ages 14 all the way up to 72. And a lot of these women have never done something like this before, never set even a fitness goal like this before. And so it's so cute, Rach. They'll come in and they're shaken, and you can tell like they're viscerally shaken, but also like actually shaking. And like, Kelsey, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like, believe in yourself. You got this. And so they'll step on the platform, whatever the lift is, it might be deadlift, let's say, and they're in front of everybody, completely in a different position than they've ever been before. But they made a commitment 6 months ago to do this, and they're showing up now. And they step on, they're shaking, they're nervous, they're just all these emotions. Yeah. They pull up this deadlift, and it almost hits me in the heart every single time, because as they're pulling it up, it's like every belief that they've had about what they're capable of breaks. Because it's like, if I can do that, what else can I do in my career, in my relationship, in my life? And for me, that's what it's all about. That's what that one lift I don't care what weight it is, but if it gets you to break a belief of, man, I never thought I could do that. Well, what else am I settling for in my life that I didn't realize I was settling for? What's possible? What's possible?
I think that's what's also so credible about, doing hard things. And I know that's something I want you to speak to here in a minute, because I know you're all about doing hard things as a way to really cultivate that confidence muscle too. But that's like the same thing for me with public speaking. People see me like speaking on stage. They're like, oh my gosh, you're awesome. It's amazing. And I'm like, you have no idea. Because it's the most terrifying thing for me ever in the world. Now, not as much. But when I first got into public speaking and actually starting my podcast, the reason as to why I started it was because it was such a huge fear for me. Speaking was such a huge fear, having to podcast and having to use my voice. Like I was that shy girl, I was that mute girl. I did not want to use my voice. And to actually get up on stage and talk, and I had to bust my ass. I'll practice, beyond practice, my very first speaking engagement I ever did. It was to like 20 people in a box gym. And I'm like up there, same thing as those girls, piece of paper, shaking and stuff. And I'm like,
Lens coming down.
But after I was like, hey, you know what? That wasn't that bad. I could do this. And then I did another speaking engagement and I was insanely nervous. It was a bigger one. And then I practiced a ton for that. Honestly, I memorized everything I was going to say. But I wasn't super shaky, at least that time. And I got better and better and better. But the reason I did it was because it was such a huge fear. And the confidence that has came from that of because this scares me is exactly why I'm going to do it. It's actually why I have to do it. I have to do it. And being able to look at anything in your life that you're like, this scares me, I don't think I can do it, but actually flipping it and being like, this is exactly why I have to, because I'm the kind of person who's not willing to have a fear that causes me to shrink or staggers myself. I'm the kind of person who has a fear and turns it around, looks it at me in the eye and says, you're not going to be a fear for long.
Yeah. You're on, gives it a wink,
Yeah.
And I want you to think about this, Rach, too, because you were willing to step into what you were fearful of, what scared you. How many people have you impacted since then? How many people's lives might have completely changed their trajectory, their health, their life, everything. And because you were willing and are willing to lead first and take a step into the uncomfortable, the ripple effect on that. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about doing stuff that's a little bit uncomfortable, whether it be physically, whether that be speaking, because it's you never know who you could impact. And if you impact that one person and then they impact that one person, you have a different world now, And so I want to say thank you for taking a step out of your comfort zone, because look at what you've created. Look at this beast that you have now because you were willing and because you did that for you,
Yeah. I always say, your greatest life is on the other side of whatever scares you. So you have to be willing to lean in, to stand at the edge and know that you'll catch yourself there. And the worst thing that can happen isn't really that bad. And I've also had to realize that it's we care way too much what people think at the end of the day. And I had to play out the scenarios. I'm like, what's the worst that happens? I'm like, okay, yeah, I shake, I forget something. That was probably my biggest fear, is I was going to get up there and just literally forget everything that I was going to say completely. That's everyone's biggest fear, run off stage or something, but I was like, you know what, even if I was still the person who got up there, I was still the person who got up on stage, and you bet my ass what, I would get back up again. And back up again. And you said self-trust. And I also think part of that is I don't have to trust that I can and I will always succeed, but you bet my ass that I trust that I will get back up each time, get back up. And I think that's what part of it is, right? We can't always trust and have control. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to control the outcome. I can't trust that, but I can trust how I will respond. And that's something nobody can take from you.
That's so good. I love it. I mean, let's bring this then full circle to what you shared before. It's the evidence, because I think some people can see you nowadays or see me and it's well, I guess they're just fearful of nothing now. Like they keep going, and like they've built all this bank account up of the things that they've done, and they never take a step out of their comfort zone. And I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but for me, like there's always new levels. Like there's always new levels of taking a step out and of discomfort. But what you've had and what you've built, and a lot of women that are doing things like that have built, is they now have evidence of times where they've press the send button for a lot of money of like investing into something and are nervous, and it's paid off, or it hasn't paid off, but they've done it. And so now you have the evidence of those timeframes. So now you're even more able, or like, hey, I got this. Maybe you're not freaking out as much as it was before, because like, okay, now I'm going to take a step out of my comfort zone here. And there's always that next level, no matter where you get at, in my opinion, on this life and on this earth. So I just want to share that with your audience of like, you don't get to this mecca and everything's rainbows and sunshine. Like there's always new levels. You just have more evidence based on what you've done before.
And every time you grow and up level, there's just a new fear that looks a little bit different that you get to face, right? But it's a new version of it. Like my fears I have today are very different than the fears I had when I was just starting my business. And I'm sure for you, like the things that like you get nervous about, and people who are confident, it's not like they never have fears or they never get like nervous or things like that. Like it's there. It just doesn't control them.
So many of you guys know my story of losing my health, dealing with hormonal imbalances, thyroid issues, depression, anxiety, and gut issues that were so severe, I almost had my entire large intestine removed. And Western medicine completely failed me. They gave me trash can diagnosis like IBS, depression, gave me a bunch of medications. And, if I wouldn't have taken my health in my own hands today, I would be without an entire organ, like literally. And that's why I created what I wish I had, what I needed, a holistic mind and body approach, a functional medicine approach that said, why do we have this problem in the first place? And what can we do to restore function? This is the difference between thriving instead of just surviving and managing your symptoms. So if you're somebody who is sick and tired of being sick and tired, dealing with stubborn gut issues or hormonal imbalances or weight loss that you feel like is not moving anywhere, or thyroid issues and autoimmune condition, there is hope. There is another approach. And me and my team of registered dietitians, we want to help you. We want to be the support there for you. We want to do the functional medicine lab testing, look at your gut, your hormones, your thyroid, your adrenals, deficiencies, toxins that you can have in your body, get to know what you're doing with your nutrition, look at your lifestyle, look at your previous medical history, and help you create a customized plan to not just only heal, but get to the best health of your entire life. So if you're somebody who's ready to take a root cause approach to healing and step into the best version of you, fill out our application on our website, rachelscheer.com, and book a free 30-minute call. Absolutely free to do this call. Our goal on this call is to better get to know your goals and how this approach may work for you. So click the link in the show notes and book a free call if you would like to learn more.
Right. And that's that confidence piece. And I would imagine like, what are some things that you feel like recently you're like, ooh, you know what? This is risky.
Everything.
To
be honest with you, like, even to this point, Rach, I know we haven't talked about it yet, but everything with Mission48 is 3 months away. And I'm still like, how are we going to pull this off? But like, and that's being very realistic. I mean, very like, I don't know how we're going to pull the pieces together. Do I trust that it's going to come together? Yes. But also when there's such, this is a Kelsey thing. I won't speak for anybody else, but when there's such a big thing that you're going after, and I actually had somebody share this with me, and because I was trying to bullhead it my own self and trying to pull all these pieces together, and I'm like, I don't know how we're going to do this. And it's like, she was like, Kels, this is greater than you. Allow God into this big thing that you're doing, because if you try to control this whole thing on your own, like, you as a human might not be able to do that, right? But with something so much greater than you, no matter what that you believe in, when you allow something to orchestrate that and you just keep walking, it's going to work in ways that you never could have even imagined. And so for me, that's something that I cling on to. And is also a huge piece of my confidence is it's not just me as a human, right? Because I'm not the greatest at everything, but it's like, I trust in something so much greater than me to walk with me through the big, scary things that I'm going after, the fears that I'm going after. And I even have a tattoo. My mom freaked out when I got this, but it says faith over fear. And it's like, when you can have that deep confidence that like, you might not be able to, but hey, I got someone so much greater on my side. That's where that fear can seem a little bit less scary at the end of the day.
Yeah, powerful. It's like leaving space for God to fill in the rest there. And I love that you bring faith into it. For those who are listening, let's talk about Mission48. Like, what is that? Because like you're doing some big things right now.
The craziness of it.
Yeah, the craziness.
So, like I shared even before Rach, we popped on, this has been a dream for 2 years. 2 years. And I had this idea, like I said, 2 years ago, and it was something where I was like, well, what if, and what it is I'm doing 48 different fitness competitions. One day could be a marathon. The next day could be a powerlifting meet, because I like pushing limits in just all areas and showing people that you don't have to stay in this little box. So 48 comps in 48 states. So the inland states in 48 days. So the logistics of it is insane. I will tell you that.
How
what
are you training and preparing for that?
I'm like, my body is eternally sore right now.
Yeah.
It's another level. I have never, obviously I've never done it before, but I've never trained something where you have to endure for that long.
Yeah.
And 2 years ago, it was originally, I'll share this story. It was originally weeks. What I was going to do is I was like, cool, I can do a competition. Then I can speak at a school for young girls and instill good values and talk about confidence. And then I'll go somewhere else the next week. And about 3 months ago, Rach, I hopped on a call with somebody that's going to help a ton with sponsorships and just like orchestrating this whole thing together. And as I was talking with him, he was like, oh yeah, Kels, 48 comps in 48 states in 48 days. And I was like, whoa, I want to let you know, like, this is weeks, not days, vastly different. And he's like, well, Kels, if you think about it, like, women, or not women, anybody nowadays, like, we have goldfish brains. We scroll, and if it's not engaging in 0.5 seconds, like, you scroll away. And so it's like, if you really want to have the impact that you want to have, if you want to have the ripple effect and just be able to create this thing, he's like, I would think about shortening that timeline, because then you're going to be able to get this big up and like focus on it. And then you can speak about the stories after. And I sat there for a moment, because I was like, this is a different ball game.
Yeah,
like, this is not even the same. And I sat there and I was like, I get it. Like, it makes so much sense with being able to have the impact that we want to have. And it's funny, because I got off that call, rearranged all my logistics, rearranged all the scheduling. And it was this moment, and I imagine you've been there before, even maybe starting a business. It was, I'm so excited. How are we ever going to do this? Like, I'm so excited about this thing. I need to level up my fitness so much more than what I would have had to do in 48 weeks. I probably could have mustered through 48 weeks. And I'm actually really excited that we switched to that too, because I want to share that story of, in that moment of excitement, but also scared, is when real things can start to happen and you level up as a human. So long story short, the training is no joke right now.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit more about that moment though, because I've worked with quite a few people who, right, it comes down to like decision time, right?
Yeah.
Decision time, right? And maybe they just made a huge investment, right? And this has been even women who invest into doing business coaching with me. Like, we make this investment and there's like, oh, I can't believe I just did that. Like, what did I do? Oh my gosh. And like all the fear comes up, but also how our brain works, right? Is it'll start to give us reasons why not to.
It'll
start to come up with excuses and be like, well, what about this and this and this and this and this? And it's at this point of time that you're speaking to where often we kind of cower and we back out and we're like, I can't do this. And I have had people who've done that before, and I've had to have some like real conversations with them where they make the investment that they're like, I'm all in. And then the fear comes up, and then the excuses come out. And then it's, not right now, there's this happening and this happening and this happening. And I'm just like, look, there can be all the excuses in the world. And the fear that's coming up there is normal. Like I've never met anybody who's set out to do something great, like really, really great, that didn't have that fear that was there, that was like, well, how am I going to pay for this? Or, what's it going to like? That is so normal. But I'd love it if you could speak to that moment, because I really want my listeners to hear, like, really there's two roads at that moment. Is like, go back, play small, play safe, or lean over the edge, lean over the edge.
Oh, I've been there so many times. I can't even tell you the amount of times, not even in Mission48, where my hand was shaking, pressing the send button to an amount that I invested into a mentor that I'm like, what? Like, I can't even imagine that I did it. What do you say?
Was that Bedros?
It was two other ones before then. Yeah, it was two other ones.
You made a lot of investments then. Yeah.
I have. And each time it's scary. Like there's not been one time where I'm like, oh, like, yes, let's do it. I build up a little bit of confidence. But in that moment, actually, the first time I've ever invested a good chunk of money into myself and my business. And a lot of times that can come up with like, do I deserve it? Am I worthy of it? And usually that's like the deep rooted fear belief why people back out, because they don't actually feel that they're worthy of the success on the other side of that. And so I remember the first time I did it, we ended up having a little weekend trip with my fiance out to this beautiful Airbnb. It was supposed to be a great weekend. The whole time I was stressing over, should I do it? Should I not do it? And I tried to talk myself out of it, Rach, 200 plus times and make justifications why I shouldn't do it. I was searching in the world of every reason why I shouldn't, because I was scared. The only reason was because I was scared. And I tell every single person that single-handed decision, when I pressed the send button, was the best decision of my life. Not because it gave me all of the tools in my business, all the tools here. It helped me, right? But it was me investing into myself to say, I'm worth it. I'm doing this. And what that single decision has led me to do is the next decision and the next decision. And when you're not even just, let's say, business coaching with you, you're not even just investing in this beautiful system and all, you're investing as you as a human. You're investing in the trust that you're having in Rachel, and you're investing in you evolving to that next level, which is exactly what your program is called with, And so for those that I want to share with it, that you're in that, should I do it? Should I not do it? I would tell you every single time, if you have that fear, that doubt, that hesitation, that's so normal. You are not the only one ever feeling that way. I do it almost every single time, but you're worth it. And you'll only know until you actually hit that send button. And I love to think about, I make almost every decision, which I don't know if I condone this, but I make a lot of decisions based on this, is I call it my rocking chair theory. I think about myself when I'm 95 years old in front of the little fire with my blanket. I have this visual in my brain. And I started my business on this, believe it or not. And I think about that version of me. And my biggest like success in life would be getting to that version and be like, you went for it, girl. You didn't let doubt, fear, hesitation, questioning get in the way. My biggest fear, which sometimes also is a motivator for me, I'm not going to lie, is me getting to that version and thinking, what if? What if you would have pressed that send button? What if you would have gone for Mission48? What if you would have X, Y, and Z, insert whatever, And so for me, when I'm in that crossroads decision, I'm like, well, what would she think? And usually 10 times out of 10, it's go for it, to be honest with you.
Oh, so good. And I've actually had that exact same visual in myself. And I'm like, you know what? Despite any failure in anything in my life or embarrassing myself for getting on stage, whatever it could be, I know I can look back on my life and be able to honestly say, I went for it. Like I went for it, and I never have to question, well, what if I really did this? And I tried to create the business, and I feel like I will never have that question. And I think that's the number one regret that people have, is they get to the end of their life. They're like, you know what? I wish I would have really just bet on myself. I wish I would have taken a risk. I wish I would have just leaned in. Like, because what is really the worst that can happen? Failure? Like, that's not even the worst thing, right? And failure is only a failure when you actually stop.
Yes.
When you actually quit. It's not a failure. Like every entrepreneur, has had so many pitfalls before they were incredibly successful, right? When you learned how to ride a bike, right? You probably fell down how many times before you actually like got up on the bike and you're like, I can ride a bike. And it's at that exact same thing. But you wouldn't say like, oh, I'm a failure. I failed at learning how to ride a bike. You're like, no, I fell down and I fell down and I got back up. And you know what? Eventually I was able to ride a bike. And it's the same thing in your business. It's the same thing in, you know, all of these areas in your life. We just don't view it that way. That we're like, oh my God, I fell down. I quit, you know?
Yeah, it's like, no.
You're like,
a 2-year-old doesn't quit when stop walking when they can't walk. It's like, no, not 2-year-old, 1-year-old. Hopefully a 2-year-old can walk by then. But I mean, think about that. You know, yeah, even
crying.
They get up and they fall down. You as a parent, you're like, oh, you got it. Get back up, you know? And it's the same thing that you have to be sometimes your own cheerleader in a way of, man, I fell down. Well, you got it. Get back up because you never know what's ahead for you, you know?
And I just honor that so much in you because you are the kind of woman who is like, I'm going to dream big. I'm going to think big. And you know what? Screw 48 weeks. Let's do 48 days, which is, I'm like trying to think through all the logistics myself. And I'm like, okay, one, how are there that many competitions back to back? Like number one, but two, like what does your training look like?
Oh, it is the actual travel trip. So we're going to do an RV. We'll wrap it. We'll do like a big thing with it. Because like I said, like, I don't just want this to be me gallivanting the country. Like I want women, the whole reason why we're doing this is like, I want women and no matter what age you are to be a part of this, say like, I'm capable of more. I'm stronger than more. And actually I have one woman, she's a massage therapist. Amen. Hallelujah for her that she's coming with me. And this inspired me so deeply. And is like the reason why I'm doing it is I went over to her house about 3 weeks ago and she was like, Kelsey, I have an idea. I'm like, share it with me. And she's not the most physically fit human, meaning she doesn't train every morning. She doesn't do the crazy stuff that you or I do as much. And she's like, I want to walk 1 mile in every single state that we go to. And she goes, that's my hard. And I was like, Denise, I love that. Because whatever your heart is, for some people, it might be a marathon. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'll do a marathon. For some people, it might be walking to the mailbox, right? Whatever your heart is, when you pursue that and you consistently do that, that's when everything changes for you. And so to kind of share about that, Rach, like that's exactly what I want it to be. And that's why we're traveling and we're doing it. It's like, I want people to join in on that. And I want this to be a movement with it way more than this girl gallivanting the country with it. So training is crazy. The traveling even is crazier. And we're going to make it happen. So
yeah, I'm curious too how your sleep's going to be. It's going to be great.
My subconscious is going to have great sleep.
Prioritizing sleep recovery, ice bath, lovely massage therapist with you, much needed.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
Where would you rank this? Let's say there's like marathon, there's like an ultra marathon. Where would like this be in the spectrum?
Well, I've never even done a marathon or ultra marathon. So
it's like more power, right?
It's everything. I have everything from a 50K bike ride to a marathon to a powerlifting. Wow. So it's like, it's everything, which that's what's interesting, to be honest with you, is like, I've never done half of the stuff that I have on that calendar, to be honest with you. And that makes me excited and, oh my gosh, what am I doing at the same time? Because, and honestly too, is like, we're sharing this on social and we're going to create a lot of videos with this. Like, I want people to see me in not so rainbows and sunshine moments. Like, and I want to see myself, like, how do I respond? I know how I would imagine I respond because I've been in different situations before, but I really want to show not just these rainbows and sunshine, like silver linings. Like, it's going to be hard at times. And I would say, like, hey, if she can get up, I can get up and finish my mile today. And that's what it's about to me, to really have that ripple effect with it.
I have so many questions. One, do you have someone following you and videoing this whole thing? I hope.
Okay. Yes, but I haven't found them yet. It's actually really hard to find somebody that wants to travel for 48 days, to be honest with you. So if you know a human, I am all ears with it because I want to create like a documentary and do it with it all. So
one, I want to see the moments where you're like really struggling, because I'm sure, and I know that you do this, but there will be those moments where you're like, oh, I already know there's going to be those really hard moments where you're going to feel like you want to quit, and like being able to document that and like show that to people of like the rough parts. I see that. Yeah.
Oh, you're going to see it, my friend. Yeah. Once we find the video, we'll put them out there because there's going to be moments like that. And actually I got done with, about a few weeks ago, it's called Hell on the Hill. And they do basically a half marathon where it's just up and down this massive hill 60 times. And people get to like a dark place at times. And we do like 15 minutes of silence on that hill. but it was incredible, Rach. There was one girl that she was out there for 4.5 hours finishing it. And at the end, the entire 250, 300 people finished her last lap with her. And the environment, the beliefs that she, like, it was incredible. So it's like those moments that the dark moments are worth it for.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You see how like people come together too in those moments and like really like uplifting other people. Do you have a driver? These are all my questions that come.
Yeah.
Like mom brain. I'm like, do you have a driver? Like you're not driving.
So I have a team coming with me. We're still like solidifying some of them. My dad's even coming with me.
Okay.
So we have that coming together with it. So we do have that. We're partnering also with a charity. It's called Rocks, Ruling Our Experiences, which is a huge part of what we're doing with it, which is why we're pushing out so much content. And they do like 20-week programs in schools for young girls. And they talk about self-confidence, everything honestly that we're talking about, but for like elementary and middle school. And I don't know about you, but if I would have had some of these nuggets back then, Lord, would my life have looked different. And I've spoken at some of their schools that they have these Rocks programs at, and what the little girls come up to me and say, I'm like, dang, like I wish I would have had that. And so our big goal is to fund 10,000 girls for these programs, because it's like, if we could really change that generation, what is the next 20, 30, 40 years going to look like? And so we have a whole team. We have a lot of little pieces to put together, but it's some of those details. I'm still like, how are we going to do it? But we're going to put it together for sure.
So, from this, there's a donation to Rocks. What is it?
Yeah. Yeah. So what you can do, like we'll have specific companies that want to work with us that maybe we'll fund a state, and that's like more for Mission48. But say you're a human out there and you're like, oh, I want to help out. We'll have like a whole donation page with Mission48. I'm not touching any of the money. I said, don't put that in my hands. It goes directly to Rocks. And our goal is obviously to fund the 10,000 girls. So we will have that available too.
That's incredible. Can people join in on these competitions with you?
Please.
Yeah. Also, again, so like, when you come to Texas, I can come.
I do actually. Where are you at again? Are you
Dallas?
Dallas? We're either going to Dallas or Austin. I'll have to double check on specifically on that. But yes, please, if you are out there.
I hope it's not a marathon that you're doing.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. But if you're out there, and we'll post the schedule, we'll post all of the travel. It's actually, like I said, we're launching a week depending on when this comes out. And so we'll have the entire trip. And if there is a place that you're in, please, please, please come, because there's going to be some moments where I need community around me to keep me going. So please come out.
And I can imagine too, like the support. And I think that's what's so cool too, like kind of coming back to the confidence piece is, the people who really pour into you can play such a huge role in your confidence. And I'd even say for anybody listening, like get around people who inspire the greatness inside of you. Like pay attention to your energy when you're around people. Like I'm so blessed to get to like be around such high achievers and just beautiful people, and get to podcast with them, like people like you, Kelsey, where I get to share space with you, and that like pours into me so much. But I know for a lot of people, like you may not be around people who are very uplifting in your life. Like I said, I didn't grow up a whole lot with that, but you can create more of that in your life, like getting around other people. Fitness is a great way to do so, but sometimes like we need to get in other rooms and we need to get around different people, right? Because if the people around you also aren't inspiring you to greatness, it's also going to be really, really hard to want to step into what you say you want for your life, or step into your greatness. So I'd love it if you could even speak a bit to that too, because I can just picture you too, and like in those really tough moments, I'm sure as you're also finishing through this, like the people can just play such a huge role in the support and just really helping.
Oh, it's pivotal. I mean, I don't know about you, but environment is everything to me. It's not everything, meaning it's your end all be all if you're not in a great environment, but you cultivating people around you, whether it's virtually in a online one or whether it's actually in person. The environment can either pull you up or pull you down. I actually was just listening to a podcast, and it was saying how if you are within 25 feet of a top performer in a company, top performer, 25 feet. You're not even really hearing much of what they're saying, but you're just in that proximity. I'm going to butcher these numbers, so please do not quote me on this, but like your actual revenue or personal revenue comes up 15% versus if you're in 25 feet with the worst performer in the company, it goes down 30%. And that's just proximity, you know? And so the power of proximity and the power of environment, it will pull you in certain directions, whether or not you even realize it. So taking an inventory of who am I around, who am I physically around in my day-to-day? Maybe you can't change locations right now, but who am I putting myself around when I'm on social? Who am I putting myself in rooms with your business group? Like, who am I actually getting around that's going to challenge me to think bigger and that's going to support me no matter what happens? And for me, Rach, I think that's why I'm so passionate about pulling people together from an event standpoint, because that can change somebody's life. And when you get around them, I know you've probably felt this, when you get around good humans, like, man, you realize sky's the limit for it. So I'm big about environment.
Yeah, sometimes you're just around shitty people. Seriously, no, like, sometimes you are, and it's incredible. And I think one, it's paying attention to around, like, one, your close friends, right? Because your close friends are going to play such a huge role. And it's not saying that all of your closest friends have to be like super inspiring and all of that, but some of them should be, because
it impacts it.
Yeah.
I mean, and you might have seen this too. Like, people will impose limitations on people without even realizing it, you know, especially when you're younger, whatever their beliefs are or what they think their limits are, a lot of times that will be passed down, or just even in your environment. If they think there's a limitation of, oh, you can only make X amount of money, that limitation, whether you don't even realize it, might be planted in your brain. And so thinking about, like, do I even have limitations that I'm keeping myself back with because of the people that I'm around? And it's huge.
Yeah. And very often family can be the worst too. I know for me, just because I grew up broke and like we foreclosed on our home as a kid. And I remember when I was investing in my first business coach and it was $50,000 to do so, I just like played a game and I'm like, I'm going to tell them it's 25,000 and just like see how they respond. And it was just like half the amount. And I told my mom, and I think I even told like this business colleague, I'm like, I'm investing $25,000. And they're like, what? Are you insane? Are you crazy?
That's a car.
Yeah. They're like, wow, oh my gosh, like that's a lot. And like, they did not believe in it at all. Well, then it's like, haha, tricks on you, because, you know, I was able to grow RSN to, you know, a 7-figure business as a byproduct of that. But just like you said earlier, it was really me saying yes to me and declaring what I wanted. And like, I was like, I know I'm going to get it. I just need the right directions. But they also didn't know it was actually $50,000. But sometimes the people in your life also don't have confidence in you, because you also haven't really given them proof either too. And not saying that you have to convince them, like you don't, never, ever, ever should you have to convince somebody and be like, this is why you should believe in me. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, you know, sometimes you haven't given people that evidence by really going after it, right? And it's actually a kind of an entitlement mentality when you're really early on to just expect everybody to have incredible confidence in you and to believe in you and all of that. You know, it's like the better approach is expect that most people, especially the people closest to you, won't. Do it anyway, create the proof. And now looking back, when I tell them like, I'm going to invest, you know, 100,000 here and like do all this stuff, they're like, they don't even bat an eyelash anymore, because now they've like seen it, but they didn't believe me early on. So sometimes it's having that belief in ourselves, being willing to, you don't need to wait for anybody's approval, for anybody's clap to be able to go after it. You just have to have that inner knowing in yourself. And, you know, if they clap for you along the way, like that's awesome, but you don't need it either.
And give yourself permission too. I think that's one of the biggest things is we're waiting for outside permission. Oh, Kels, yes, go invest in that program. Nobody's coming for you to tell you to do that. But it's you not giving yourself permission is what's holding you back. And that was for me. You know, I wasn't giving myself permission to step out or actually be myself. And so I was such a suppressed version of me, and that doesn't serve anybody. So for those out there that they're like, oh, this is hitting home, Kelsey and Rach, like it's hitting deep. give yourself permission to be the greatest version of you. And a lot of times that comes with you declaring it and you actually either pressing the send button or something that's putting it out in the world of like, I'm not playing around right now. And that can be the best decision of your life.
Yeah, I think it's being able to like own like your brilliance. And I think sometimes we shrink ourselves, we play small. Fear of we don't feel like we can do it. You know, there's so many different reasons, but I think the greatest gift you can give yourself is be willing to play big. Be willing to just completely play big. And for me, like I used to play small. I definitely did. And for me, part of fitness was like that little, like the gateway drug. I would say fitness is the gateway drug, right, to personal development. But then after that, you know, it's allowed me to really play big and you know what, have zero care of what anybody thinks, right? I've actually, someone once told me, they're like, you're really cocky. Like, so, and I'm like, that's one perspective, right? You know, but it's like, what if we could like be able to speak such great things into ourselves? I'll be like, you know what, I'm brilliant. You know, I am so worthy. I am so worthy of having everything that I want, but I'm only worthy when I'm willing to actually go after it. And I think
that's good.
It's very rare for a lot of us to think in that way, but being able and willing, and I think for women to be able to think big.
Yeah, go for it. You know, worthiness is one of the biggest things that holds people back. And I think if you can really deeply, like, not to get spiritual on us, but I mean, you are worthy. And what we'll usually do is hold ourselves back of anything that's already available to us. So just go for it. Lack of better ways, just go for it. You never know. You know?
Yeah. I think I would say. Well, I love this conversation. I feel like we've probably done a million conversations and podcasts like this based off of how this talk went. But you guys, this is literally like the second podcast. But this has been amazing. And I know that my audience will love this episode. But how can people support you in Mission 48?
I appreciate that, Rach. So biggest thing that we're going to really push out is a lot on social. So follow at Kelsey Lensman. We'll do a YouTube video each week leading up to Mission 48. And then every day we're going to drop a new YouTube video for it. So we'll put a lot out there. But like I said, if there's a company that's like, oh, this is awesome, I want to be a part of it, we are looking for sponsorships. I cannot do this on my own. I will tell you like that. So we will have regional and state sponsors that if this really hits home with your mission, we would love to talk to really good brands to be a part of this. And then if you're a human that you're like, Kelsey, I love this mission. Like I said, we are really trying to help 10,000 girls for this. So that will be out there. I'll give Rachel all the links for that.
Yeah. You have a donation link?
I do. Yep.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
We'll make sure all of that is in the show notes because I definitely want to make sure like we're supporting this mission. I love it. I love what this whole mission is about. I love everything that you're about and helping women step more into their confidence with everything. So you guys, if you have the means to give us support, I'm a big believer in the law of reciprocity too. Like when you give, you know, there's so much that is given back to you, right? So when there's incredible things like what Kelsey is doing, just being supportive of that is also going to play a role in your confidence, and it's also going to play a role in, you know, wanting to do other things like that for yourself too. So, you know, give her a support if you have the means to financially. If you're a company out there, we'll put all of the information in the show notes. But I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, Kelsey.
Oh, Rachel, I just want to say thank you, one, for having me on, but thank you for doing the work that you're doing. I mean, you ripple effect so many humans in your life, the company that you're leading. And I'll just plant the seed. If you want a speaking gig when I come to Texas, you have a speaking gig there. So I appreciate everything that you're doing. And I appreciate you having me a part of this.
Awesome. Well, if you guys loved today's episode, one, take a screenshot of this when this drops, because this is a great way to support Mission 48. Tag Kelsey. We'll have all of her Instagram links where you can find her in the show notes. Just let's spread the awareness about everything that she's doing and how we can also help support. It was called
Rocks.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been Scheer Madness.